At the end of 2025, I got my heart broken for the first time. Now, the main reason why it didn't work out was it's simply we weren't right for each other. But along the way, I learned some lessons and I made some mistakes that cost me the relationship to learn. And that's why I'm going to share what I've learned through my first ever relationship. A bit of context. This girl and I met because we sort of knew each other in school, and I worked up the courage to message her because I liked her. And somehow, one miracle later, we start texting a lot, and eventually, over text, over the next few days when we were messaging each other, I asked her if she wanted to go on a date. She said yes. And over the course of 2 months, we go on multiple dates, we're texting a lot, and I experienced my first proper relationship. The first lesson I learned is that red flags get worse and not better. It's hard to spot red flags because you are under the influence of emotion and your brain convinces you that this other person is pretty much perfect, even though they're obviously not. And I had this belief where I thought that her taking ages to reply sometimes and her not being very consistent, I thought it would get better with time and not worse. I thought that the more she got to know me, the more she would like me, and she wouldn't want to leave me undelivered for an hour or two. But the problem was, I should have seen this coming. It got worse. What used to be being delivered on for an hour and then getting an apology later turned into hours and no apology. Right before it ended, I got left undelivered for something like 20 hours. The reason why red flags get worse over time and not better is because this person gets more comfortable with you. At the beginning, they try to be quite nice and they try a lot harder because they don't feel so secure yet. But as they feel more comfortable and more secure, eventually they start showing their true nature. And for some people, that's just deciding not to reply to messages for some reason. And number two, about a month in, maybe a month and a half, I started researching some things online and I ended up going down a bit of a rabbit hole. I learned about attachment styles. I'm not going to go into depth about what exactly these are, but it's a set of behaviors that a person can show based on how they were treated as a kid, and this affects how they receive and give love to other people. I ended up self-diagnosing as an anxious attacher, meaning that I had a fear of being abandoned. And it was quite easy for me to believe this because I had a lot of proof that this was actually true. But later did I learn, after the relationship, it was probably BS. I was never anxiously attached. I was just receiving inconsistency, and so it's no wonder that I didn't like it. The reason why I labelled myself as an anxious attacher is because it was easier to see myself as the problem rather than her, because again, I was under the influence of emotions, and so I wanted to believe that she was a good person and that there was a genuine reason why she couldn't always reply in a reasonable time. But the truth was, I wasn't seeing inconsistency when there was none. I was simply seeing the truth. I saw inconsistency and I didn't like it. That's nothing to do with what attachment style I have or whatever. It's just wrong person, wrong time. It'd been about 2 months into the relationship and we ended up trying to resolve our emotions over text for God knows how many times, a good few times. This wasn't my idea. I made it clear that I wanted to have difficult conversations in person, but she was upset at me and I only found out when she messaged me, so I couldn't speak to her in person about it because it was happening over text. And the mistake that I made, although it wasn't entirely my fault, it was that both of us were trying to resolve emotions over text. We'd message each other saying we were upset, we were confused, annoyed. And to be fair, I'd done that a good few times as well, because I didn't see this girl as often as I would like to have. And the problem was, we just made a habit out of never saying anything uncomfortable in person. So we would act fine in person, but then over text we would talk about how we weren't exactly that happy. And the reason why I say you can't resolve your emotions over text is because it's so easy to misread tone, especially when you're upset. It's easy to misread a text because, you know, one sentence could have multiple meanings depending on the context behind it or the intention. And also, I used to send quite big paragraphs, she would as well, and it's just quite overwhelming to have to read through all of this text and take it all in. It'd be so much easier just to have someone say it to you in person. And another thing, it's setting you up terribly, always having difficult conversations over text. Like I said, we ended up making it a habit and we didn't say anything uncomfortable in person. And so we'd act fine in person, we'd come home, get on our phone, start texting, and it was like, almost like we were different people. And that was not good. This next one ties into messaging, because I never really got to do this in person, but when I had the chance to speak, to say I was upset, I would say everything at the same time, multiple paragraphs. I would just express it all in one go. This was not a good idea. This is an example of bad timing. This is because it's so overwhelming to have to read so many problems and so many sentences. It would have been so much better if I simply just said one thing at a time, and that way she could understand one problem at a time. We can work through it and fix it together. And another way of avoiding saying everything at the same time, this is some advice I wish I followed. When I was genuinely upset about something, I should have spoken up. I didn't, because I didn't want to make her upset about the fact that I was upset. I know, it's stupid. And overall, I just wanted her to be happy in the relationship. So when something upset me, like if she cancelled a plan or something, I might have spoken up a little bit and asked her to not make plans in the future if she doesn't think she can go. But I wouldn't specifically say that I didn't like that she cancelled on me. And so that meant later on, when I finally started talking about something that was bothering me, I'll just release it all in one go, because it had all been building up inside my brain and I finally had to let it go. And number 5, this is what I believe finally drove her away. Now I can't be certain, because I never really got a proper explanation as to why we couldn't be together. All I got was I'm not ready for a relationship. But I don't really believe that. This is what I believe went wrong, and this is the most important lesson that I learned. It cost me losing somebody, but I will take on this lesson and be able to apply it to other parts of my life. So she came to me upset at something. It wasn't anything big, but I had done 1 or 2 things to upset her unintentionally. And so she messaged me saying she was upset at these 2 things. The problem was, I did say sorry, but it didn't really sound like an apology. I gave her logical explanations as to why I did those things, because to be fair, I didn't mean any harm by doing those. So I tried to explain exactly why I did that, to help her understand that it didn't come from a place of trying to hurt her. But the problem was, I ended up just defending myself. It's almost like I didn't take responsibility for the things I'd done wrong. Because some people wouldn't have seen those things as wrong, but she did, and I should have apologized properly. And another thing I did when I received her text is I started talking about how I had been upset too, how It really annoyed me how she just went cold for a whole week and didn't really message much and ignored me. And the problem was not that I told her I was upset. It's only fair that I tell somebody when they've done something wrong. But it was really bad timing. I should have made her feel safe and heard first, and then, only then, after those problems have been solved, can I talk about mine. And that is the lesson. If she is upset, do not talk about your problems until she finally feels safe and heard. That is the most important thing. She is coming to you feeling upset because she wants to be reassured. She wants to feel safe and she wants to feel heard and understood. But you telling her your problems so that you can feel understood, it doesn't give her the comfort she needs. There is a time and place to talk about your problems, but right after she tells you hers is not the right time. And that's the mistake I made that cost me an entire relationship. And as well, just there's no point being defensive. You might have logical reasons and explanations as to why you did those things, and that's fair enough, but explanations isn't going to make her trust you. It's the consistency you show, the actions you take every single day to show her that she is appreciated and loved. It's like trying to change somebody by telling them to change. That will make them even less likely to change. You can't just always give explanations as to why you did something. You've got to own up for doing something wrong. And maybe later, if she wants to hear it, you tell her why you did that, and you make sure that you don't make that mistake again in the future. And these aren't exactly lessons I learned recently, but these are some words of wisdom I want to leave you with at the end of this video. Avoidance is a form of communication. If they don't reply, take that as a reply. Take their silence as a reply. If you say something in person and they don't say anything back, they might not know what to say, but that is how they communicate, because choosing nothing is still choosing something. And finally, this is another mistake I made. It didn't cost the relationship, but it cost me some self-respect and some time. If they have broken up with you before, just don't go back. They didn't want to make it work, and that's the hard truth. They could have given you another chance. I don't know how many chances they gave you, but in my case, I didn't get another chance to make it work until after I had come back, after I'd been broken up with. If they break up with you, it's because they no longer wanted to make it work. Maybe they wanted you, but they didn't want to make the relationship work, and that's the hard truth. So the lesson there is, don't get back with your exes. Now, I'm not exactly a really wise person who knows everything. I'm just sharing some lessons that I had to figure out the hard way, because to learn what I shared in this video, I had to pay the price of losing somebody I loved, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. So please, if you've watched this video all the way to the end, just take some inspiration and try not to make the same mistakes I did.